I flew on yet another Delta Boeing 717 Joyride. This flight was a short 48 minutes hopping from Destin Fort-Walton Beach to Atlanta, Georgia. This was my first ever trip to Florida and my first solo commercial journey, and I really enjoyed visiting Florida. The highlight of the trip was definitely watching the Blue Angels practice from their home base at NAS Pensacola. Anyway, it's time for yet another ride on the rare Boeing 717, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Good morning from Destin Fort-Walton Beach International Airport. My name is Tomcat1226 and welcome back to the channel. I'm here for the first of two flights bringing me back home to Milwaukee, so why not fly the 717 again literally a week later? I specifically booked my arrival into Destin just for the 717 since Pensacola Airport doesn't get regular 717 service, so I decided that flying this aircraft as much as possible before retirement is more important. Moving on, my gate today is B2 in Destin's main terminal. My aircraft actually isn't here yet, and the 717 leaving on the flight before mine was actually the exact same airframe I took on my first 717 flight back in February of 2025, November 996 Alpha Tango. It was such a warm welcome seeing this aircraft again, and it holds a special memory for me. Anyway, let's check out the terminal. Destin has a very nice terminal with 2 floors, and I really like the light blue carpet. Destin has lots of unobstructed views to watch aircraft movements outside, including the Southwest 737 MAX 8 and an American Airbus A319 undergoing some engine maintenance. Really cool to see the internals of the IAE engine right here from the terminal. Destin is also a decently sized Allegiant hub, and the low-cost carrier uses only outside gates, boarding via air stairs. Another thing I like about this airport is that the departure board has a built-in flight tracker which tracks all flights inbound and outbound from Destin. I could see my aircraft still inbound from Atlanta. Fun fact, Destin is also the home of Eglin Air Force Base, the largest in the world. Under the hangars in the distance I could see some parked F-16s, F-5s, and F-35s from the south end of the main terminal. After waiting a bit longer, my aircraft finally arrived from Atlanta, registered as November 994 Alpha Tango, is a Boeing 717-200 that was built in Long Beach, California in October 2002 and first flew with AirTran Airways. Then Delta acquired this aircraft in 2013 along with the rest of AirTran's 717 fleet. I flew 994's sister aircraft just the week prior, November 993 Alpha Tango, which I find to be a really funny coincidence. The Boeing 717s are powered by 2 Rolls-Royce BR715 turbofan engines, which are upgraded from the older DC-9 Pratt & Whitney JT8D turbofan engines. For those of you who don't know, the 717 is actually designed by McDonnell Douglas's the MD-95, meant to replace the aging Douglas DC-9. However, Boeing bought the company in 1997, and the MD-95 was renamed to the 717 before it could enter service. It may have a Boeing name, but the 717 still shows the Maddog heritage, with it literally having the same airframe as the Douglas DC-9. Today's flight operating is Delta DL-2048. I'll be flying in economy, or as Delta likes to call it, main cabin, in the same row on the opposite side of the plane from last video. After luckily no delays, it was time to board, so let's go fly another Maddog. For today's 717 flight, I'll be seated in seat 26A on the other side of the aircraft with 2 seats. Since the 717 has such a narrow fuselage, the seats in comfort class and main cabin have to be in a 2-3 configuration, which is a unique trait on the classic McDonnell Douglas regional airliners. Anyway, let's look around the seat. The tray table is a decent size and slides back and forth. In the seat back pocket are the safety card, and the in-flight menu, which was not available on this flight. The legroom in main cabin aboard Delta 717s isn't bad at all, with up to 31 inches of pitch. The armrests are not adjustable, but the headrest is and moves up and down. Above the seat are the air vents and reading light, and below the seat are some various charging ports. The reason I'm sitting in the very back of this plane is for a perfect view of the Rolls-Royce BR715 turbofan engines and the wing from the same window, a seat you can only get on this aircraft. Soon enough, we were starting up and pushing back. It's time to hear the small but powerful aircraft's roaring engines and steep climb. Enjoy an insane rainy takeoff from Destin with crazy vortexes shooting up off of runway 2. What another great takeoff from this aircraft. This is my third flight ever on the 717 and it never gets old. I really hope this aircraft stays around for as long as possible, but Delta Airlines is scheduled to retire them gradually from now until late 2029 or even the early 2030s. Before then, I'll try my best to fly the 717 as much as possible before it's gone forever. Delta Airlines 717s can carry up to 110 passengers with 12 seats in first class up front in a 2-2 configuration, 25 seats in comfort class going into the classic DC-9 2-3 configuration, and 73 seats in main cabin also in a 2-3 configuration, summing up to 29 rows of seats in total. I recommend for the best engine view book row 25 or 26, but do not book any seats farther back as you'll just be staring at the cowling the entire flight. The lavatories are at the very back of the plane, which are decently sized for such a small aircraft. Also, they are possibly the loudest aircraft lavatories in the world because the engine is right behind this wall. Also, on this aircraft, the sink doesn't seem to work. Since there is no in-flight entertainment, I tried to log onto Delta's in-flight Wi-Fi. However, it wasn't strong enough so I could track my own flight on Flightradar 24. After staying in the clouds pretty much the entire flight so far, only cruising for a short 8 minutes, we began our descent into Atlanta, Georgia, descending with some pretty cloud views and wing vortices, landing on Atlanta's runway 28. Overall, I really enjoyed that flight. Despite the rainy weather, we still made an early arrival into Atlanta, and just flying the 717 in itself is always such a joyride. Before I deboarded, I had to make a visit to the flight deck on the rare 717. Thanks again, Delta, for always letting me have a chat with the pilots. Anyway, it's time for me to go to my next flight that'll take me back home. Thank you so much for watching yet another joyride on the Boeing 717. Let me know your thoughts on this trip report in the comments below. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye!